Let's have dedicated item classes for some of our items. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Sometimes you want to have some special functionality for your item. Normally, vanilla has lots of item classes that covers many different aspects of the game, but sometimes they are not enough. For example, if we take a look at our tools, you see that we have axe item, hoe item, pickaxe item, shovel item, sword item. And if you right click and say go to declaration or usage, you will see that it's a class that extends from another class. And these are something that some people call them advanced items. However, I'm against using this name because normally in English, advanced means something really complex. However, you may have a very easy functionality that is not being provided by Minecraft itself, and you want to add it to the game. That is when you need to write your own class for your item. Remember, we had this mod armor item. This is an item class, and we had already done it, and we already overridden one method from it, being inventory tick. At that time, I didn't talk about item classes because, I wanted to have a dedicated video for this concept. So based on the concept, you can have dedicated classes, both for items and for blocks. And we will come back for the blocks and we will talk about them. They are really important, especially for block entities and more complex block behaviors. But right now, I want to talk about a very easy thing to add as a starting point for item classes. So inside item folder, we will add a Java class, and here we will call it Citrine Sword. Citrine Sword will extend, not surprisingly, from sword item. And yes, we need to create a constructor matching super. Just by doing this, I have my own type of sword with every functionality of a sword. So I can just come back into mods, find my Citrine sword, and instead of sword item, I will say, hey, it's a new Citrine sword, and the import will become back inside the game. And if I run the game, actually it will work like any other sword. However, now I want to add some extra functionality on top of this. For example, I want to put some type of curse on any entity that I hit it with this Citrine sword. We have a method called post hit. This will be called after my sword made contact with the entity. We have a target, as you see here, and we have an attacker, and we have this stack as item stack as the sword itself. So we find the target, we add a status effect, and we say new status effect instance status effects dot slowness for the duration of 10 seconds and with the level of 3. And who is adding it? The attacker. Now, of course, you don't need to check if the target is a living entity because by default it is. So that's it. That's really it. You may wonder, wait a minute, this is not advanced stuff. We just add a status on a living entity by ourselves. Yes. And that is why I'm against using the word advanced item. I prefer to use item with dedicated class or item with class. That makes much more sense, Okay, let's play the game and see if I hit something with Citrine sword, what will happen? Okay, let's spawn an egg for cow and let's give ourselves, I said Citrine. Okay, here's the cow and I need to go into survival and let's hit it. And you see that it has a slowness level 4 for 10 seconds and it's gone. So that's exactly what we wanted, isn't it? So a sword that gives slowness to any entity. Now, we will continue with 2 more examples of swords, and then in the next video, we will add more items with more functionality to the game. So the next sword will be our copper sword. So copper sword. Again, it extends the sword item, create a constructor, and of course, post hit before the return. I will come back and copy this whole mumbo jumbo for target send effect, but I will put two now. The first one will be a weakness for 200, and the second one will be withering. So basically, we are poisoning an entity at the same time making him weak. Basically, it can kill zombies by a little bit of time. So you just hit the zombie, go back, and before the withering is done and finished, the zombie will die because of the weakness. Okay, we have this copper sword. So we just come back and inside our items, find the copper, not armor, copper tool. And for the sword, we will put a copper sword there. The last one that I will cover in this video is for the sapphire. So add sapphire sword. Now we had seen a sword that gives one effect, a sword that gives two effects, but here I want to do something special. So we go into post hit. Now for sapphire, I want to mimic the knockback effect, but a lot more pushing back and give slowness. Basically, this is a very nice sword to have when you are entering those underground huge caves with lots of dark, big, empty space that causes lots of mobs attack you at the same time. Just hit each one of them once with this sword and buy yourself some time to defend. So we say target. Of course, I think I can just copy paste this slowness right from here, because the very first thing we want to give the slowness, and of course we need to call this super thingy. I just deleted it by mistake. Okay, now for sending back the enemy, we want to find a vector. A vector here is a direction. And normally, when you want to find a direction, you have 2 points. This is you, so this is the player, and this is the entity that you are hitting it with. Now, if we find the position of the player, and from the position of the player, we reduce the position of entity, we find a vector that is moving from the entity toward you. However, we want the reverse. We want this direction. And this direction is the position of entity minus the position of player. So it's just vector math, nothing crazy. Everyone that had done some programming for games like Unity 3D is familiar with this. So we get the target's position and we subtract attacker's position from that. Attacker position subtract from this guy. Now we have to normalize it. Basically, normalize returns a value between 0 and 1, nothing beyond that. And then we can multiply it with our own values, 5 on x, 1 on y, and 5 on z. Basically, we make 5 times bigger on the x and z direction for this vector. And finally, we say target dot set velocity, and for velocity, we use the vector. This will cause the entity to be pushed back by a lot. Basically, we are asking for, I think, at least 4 to 5 times the space we have between ourselves and enemy when we are hitting it. So that's a lot. Normally, the knockback is not as much as this. I think it's 1/3 or 1/4 of what we are doing here. And basically, this is the same code that you can use for any knockback effect. Just play with these numbers for multiplier and everything will work. Now that we have the sapphire sword, we just go and find the sapphire tool, find the sapphire sword, and replace it. Let's see that sword in the game, especially the sapphire one. So I gave myself a sapphire sword, and let's go into survival, create a cow, and take a look. Boom! See how far it went back? That's the effect of the knockback, and it is slowing down for a few seconds. So whenever you are in a cave with lots of zombies and maybe even creepers, just hit a creeper, it will fall back and it won't explode, and you will have a nice time wandering around the cave using these tools and these swords, basically. They are a little bit overpowered, I know that, but I like it because normally I play Minecraft to have easier time, but more on the creative side. We have few different items here that can utilize the same approach. For example, an item to teleport the player, an item that teleports entities other than player, and a wrench that right now I don't have any functionality for it, but in future I may use it to do special things, and we will take a look at that. So we will add two classes, one for player teleporter, and player teleporter is just extending the item class itself. And again, construct this matching super. Now we have few overrides that we can use. The use on block and has glint. And of course, we have use on entity, and we will take a look at that for the tuner. And the next one, append tooltip. And these are normally what you would use in most of the item classes. The last one that I will just create in this video, and that is called tuner item. And again, it extends from item class, constructor matching super. And again, here I will add the use on block, but here I will use on entity because, as I said, it will teleport entities, has glint, and append tooltip. And these are the things that you can use on different items. So for tuner, let's just return new tuner item. And for teleporter, return new teleporter item. Okay? Now, if we want to see some sort of functionality, let's start with the use. We say if word dot is client, we want to do stuff, else we want to do other stuff. Here we have the user as player entity. We say user dot send message, and we can send a message, so text dot literal, and we say use from client, else we will say use from server, and I will just copy this whole thing, and use on block, I will say use on block from client and on block, but here we don't have word or player or user. Here we have a context. So we can say context dot get word, and instead of user, we can say context dot get player, and that's it. And what is it saying? That may produce null pointer. Don't worry about that. That's just a placeholder for future. On this one, we don't have anything else, so I will just copy the whole thing. Coming back to tuner, I will paste it there. But again, I will copy this guy. Actually, we have the user here, so I just copy this section. And here we say that user dot get word dot is client and on plus entity dot get type. Why not? So the same thing, but on server. Okay, now we don't need to create the data because basically we are working with everything. I will just use tuner item and let's run the game. Okay, I made a little preparations here. Basically, I just right click, use from client, use from server. Basically, use will happen on both sides. Then I will right click on any block and you see use on block from client, use on block from server, and use from server. And then I will just use on entity, and you see use from client on entity, and use from client, and use from server on entity, and use from server. Basically, no matter what you do, the use method will always be called, but if you use it on a block or an entity, you will have extra calls. And you see that all three of these methods happen on both sides, and we see both messages every time. This is a critical thing to note because later when we come back and add functionality for items, we need to be aware that even if we are right clicking on a block and we are calling use on block, at the same time, we are calling the use, and basically they happen one after another, and we need to handle them in special dedicated ways that we desire to. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.